So I'd like to then ask you to step back from all those answers you just gave and try to explain something to me. And this is not just the journalistic search for labels, although that's part of it, but it's trying to understand where this administration is philosophically. It's not just about having a name for it, but I really, for so long, the aggressive pursuit of multilateralism, if we can talk about it that way, was described as kind of an idealistic and somewhat woolly-headed approach to foreign policy. I think it's fair to characterize the last administration's posture as that, and somewhat idealistic, if not naive. On the other hand, the answer you just gave about Iran was very much focused on our national interest, the primacy of our national interest in engaging with the world. You put those two things together, and I don't know how to describe this approach to foreign policy. Is it idealistic? Is it realist? Is it?
You know, I'm not going to fall into that trap.
Don't give me a name. Just summarize the philosophy, if you could, or the posture in a sentence.
Well, I'm not going to give you a label. Because I think those, I've yet to see a label that somebody hasn't tried to walk away from within 5 years or less of the label being current. But let me say this: my view of the way this administration approaches foreign policy, and indeed policy in general, is that it is pragmatic, non-ideological, and principled. And I think that applies across the board. In foreign policy and indeed in domestic policy. Pragmatic meaning that we take a sober look at circumstances as we see them and find them, and ask ourselves what tools are at our disposal to advance our interests in the context of those realities. And we don't unilaterally disarm ourselves of any of those tools as a matter of ideology. We look at the situation, we assess it, and we see how best we can approach it in our interests. But here's where this alleged dichotomy between interests and values is proved false. There's nothing that causes us to view our interests and values as diametrically opposed. We have an interest in promoting democracy and human rights. That's consistent with our values. We have an interest in trying to move as many countries as we can to cooperate with us effectively to deal with the nature of the challenges that we face. And I described some of those 21st century transnational challenges earlier. But in order for countries to want to work with us and to have the capacity to work with us effectively, what do they need? They need to be peaceful. They need to share our aims and objectives and ideally our values. They need to have the means to do so. And helping to build the will and the capacity of countries to partner with us in our interests means that we need in part to be concerned about the types of things that they're concerned about. So these are not either or. And multilateralism isn't a woolly end in itself. It's a means, among others, and not the only one, to accomplish our objectives in the nature of the world in which we live.